Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Ferentz. I am an occupational therapy doctoral student at Cleveland State University. I'm in the OT program here, and today I'm recording this vlog about military spouses, military family members, and caregivers of active and veteran service members. With me, as you could probably already tell, I have Megan, who's not only my friend, but she's my classmate, and she's also a military spouse, conveniently enough. So I hope to pick her brain throughout this vlog and get her perspective. In this vlog, we will cover a brief explanation of what occupational therapy is and the role it can play with military spouses and military families, important information on military spouses, family members, and caregivers, and some helpful resources that I found while preparing for this vlog. I will definitely post a list in the video description for your reference as well, because I have found so many to be helpful, and I know that it'll be hard to go back through this video and try to look them up. So they'll be there for you to reference later. So what even is occupational therapy? Occupational therapy is a profession that helps people throughout their lifespan to do the things that they need to do, the things that they want to do, while using daily activities. So while an occupation can be defined as like a job, like most people would think, in occupational therapy, occupation, the word occupation, is just an everyday activity. The job of an occupational therapist is to enable people of all ages to promote, prevent, or live better with injuries, illnesses, or disabilities. And the role that an occupational therapist can play with a military spouse, a military family member, or a caregiver is that we can play a crucial and unique role to help these guys to continue to function healthily and participate in daily activities. So while I'm sure many of you know that military service can put a strain on a spousal relationship and within the family, and occupational therapists are uniquely equipped to help with these issues. So Megan, I wanted to ask you a question. As an occupational therapy student, I wanted to ask you how your education has benefited you with your relationship with your spouse.
Okay, so my spouse, obviously, like most of my family members, did not know what occupational therapy was. So he did a lot of research, and I think it's been great because we did groups at the Veteran Center this semester. So like being able to share like what we were doing over there was really helpful. And I think he's gained an appreciation for our profession because of that.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I've loved being able to do those groups at the center. I feel like that even helps me to realize how much my profession can apply to just veterans and service members in general. So for example, an occupational therapist, they can help to reestablish daily routines for service members and families that are transitioning back to civilian life. Like there's so many things that you wouldn't be able to even think about. An occupational therapist can come alongside a military spouse or a child in military families with their mental health needs while their loved one is away. And the occupational therapist can provide them with helpful resources that could support them financially, socially, and emotionally. So there's so much that we can do. So obviously today, I would like to do just that and provide helpful information and resources about military spouses, families, and caregivers to you guys. So military spouses, let's get into that. There are roughly 1.8 million active duty military spouses and 5.8 million spouses of veterans. I didn't even realize how many there were out there.
That's a big number for sure.
Yeah, huge number of people. It's important to know this because while a majority of these military spouses are female, there are actually male military spouses. As I was looking up information about this, it surprised me, but it also didn't, because it would make sense that there are male military service members out there, but we just don't hear that often about them.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So in conjunction with this, a majority of the support resources are geared specifically towards women. In a study that I found, male military spouses usually shy away from spouse activities because they don't necessarily feel welcome or supported by the resources that are available to them.
That's really interesting.
No, right? The same study that I noted, which I'll add in the description in case anybody wants to reference that later on. There are actually 3 different types of military kinds of marriages. So there's a dual military status, where both of the individuals in the relationship are both in the military. There's a military civilian status where one's in the military, one's a civilian. And then there's the military and former military status. And about half of the civilian husbands interviewed in the study that I looked at had a military experience to them, which is also kind of an interesting thing. Also, something that I noted in the research that I did on this topic, a common theme I found was to make sure that you have social connections and support within your community. It really helps spouses, particularly, to be able to cope with what military life looks like and how, and it also increases your overall well-being quite a bit.
I agree with this completely, especially if you're like not stationed by family, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have some awesome resources for both camps here. So for the male military spouses, I found an interactive online resource and educational video library called Macho Spouse. I love the name.
I like it.
Yeah, right? So it's designed by other military spouses that are male and gathers info about male military spouses around the world, military counselors, military spouse career experts, family organizations, and provides like some really awesome testimonials. So I'll include that in the link description. So for military spouses in general, there's an organization called Military OneSource, and that's part of the U.S. Department of Defense. And they have a lot of really awesome resources available and easily accessible on their website as well. So a few that I'll mention are the Military Family Readiness System. So it's a network of programs and services that provide moving and relocation help, new parent support, financial planning help, and career counseling services. So lots of really great stuff there. There's a military and family life counseling program, which is a free and confidential service to provide short-term and non-medical counseling. This is for service members themselves, their spouses, families that qualify for services, and their services can be provided from issues anywhere from the difficulties that come with moving to parenting or even to the death of a loved one. So it's pretty versatile. There's a spouse education and career program, which provides education and career guidance to military spouses anywhere in the world. And it includes training, job readiness, career connections. And there's a Mil Spouse Money Mission on that Military OneSource website that provides education and empowerment to military spouses to help them make educated and smart financial decisions. So there's so many resources, and I will most certainly put all of those resources in the description of this video. So Megan, I want to ask you another question.
Yeah.
As a military spouse, what information that I just provided about military spouses was the most interesting or impactful to you?
All of it.
All of it.
But seriously, I've heard of Military OneSource before, but I did not realize how much they offer. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
And I think like we hear, oh, there's resources out there, but like I feel like you're doing a great job giving like in depth of like what actually is available and the variety available as well.
Oh, that's great. Good. Awesome stuff. All right, so I'm going to move on to military family members. I just want to give some more statistics because I feel like that kind of puts things in perspective for everybody. So 74% of active duty military spouses have children that are under 18 and are still at home. And this is compared to a 59% of their civilian counterparts. So 59% of normal people who are not in the military have kids at home that are under 18, but 74% of people in the military have kids under 18 at home. So there's a huge number of like military spouses and things that have kids at home. So the important things that you need to know about this are that the composition of military families has changed significantly in recent decades, especially as a result of the conflicts that have come with the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Deployment looks totally different, and I'm sure everybody watching and listening to this blog knows that already. I found a review that suggests that the impact of parental deployment on the mental health of children is increasing in recognition, which is great. It's well known and established that there is mental health concerns among children in military families, and that these issues that they have can affect social, academic, and behavioral areas. There are strategies to develop resilience with military families and like local initiatives, that are able to help the mental health of kids who are in military families as well. And I'll cite the source in the description of the video. I wanted to mention some of these sources. I think I have the United Services Organization, or the USO. There's a Cleveland office, and they have a lot of really awesome stuff for families and spouses. I found it's called the USO Coffee Connections, and it's a monthly gathering that allows military spouses to relax with other spouses through a cup of coffee and some pastries. So, just a nice little group that they have. And then something that I thought was really awesome was there's a program called Operation Bundles of Love, where the USO will provide a tote and other like supplies free to the service member who's expecting a baby. So there's lots of like really awesome, interesting stuff out there. Isn't that awesome?
That's so cool.
I know.
I didn't know any of this stuff existed.
It's crazy. There's so much stuff out there, but it's hard because there is so much stuff, and I don't think it gets talked about that much. So there's also a military and family life counseling program. I think I had mentioned that earlier, that offers counseling services also to children in military families. And the counseling can be really beneficial for a child or adolescent who's struggling with changes at home that often come with deployment, reunion, or even grief. And it can also be helpful to develop any life skills that they're lacking in, or behavioral issues or self-esteem issues that they may have as well. There's something called Operation Purple Camp, which is a free week-long summer camp for military kids where they can connect with other military kids. It's provided to all uniformed services, which includes the National Guard and the Army Reserves, which is awesome. And I found a bonus resource that I needed to include in this blog. It's a program that offers resources to families who have kids with special needs and helps families to navigate the medical and educational realms of life. That's called the Exceptional Family Member Program. And again, I'm mentioning so many resources. They're all going to be in the video link description, and they're going to be like notated, so it's easier for you to find. I thought that was just awesome, and I needed to include that for the families out there. All right, so
you found that.
Oh, you glad I found it? Yeah, I was like, I need to include this. This is really important. So military caregivers, who can be a military caregiver? I think it's something to note that anybody that manages the care of a current or former military service member is a military care member, or a caregiver, sorry. And this can be a spouse, but it can also be a friend or an acquaintance. It doesn't necessarily need to be a family member. I think that's important to note. It's also important to know that there are unique circumstances that surround military caregivers, especially those who serve younger individuals, like the individuals who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. There are 5.5 million military caregivers in the US, and 1.1 million are those. 1.1 million are for veterans who have served after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. And before I researched this topic, I don't think that I would have thought that caregivers extended out to family, like to friends and acquaintances. Did you, Megan, did you know about this before I mentioned it?
I had no idea. I think it's amazing though.
I know. And I think I love the fact that there are other people out there willing to help. And I want to make sure that they know that there's so many awesome resources out there for people that do help out like that. Something to note about military caregivers, they perform a wide variety of different tasks, anywhere from bathing and dressing to helping individual cope with emotional difficulties. Yeah, so military caregivers from earlier eras resemble a more typical civilian caregiver, and then the post 9/11 caregivers differ quite a bit because they face more acute challenges. The caregivers tend to be younger and they juggle work with their caregiving duties. And most of these caregivers do not have a support group. They're 4 times more likely than non-caregivers to be depressed. A third of post 9/11 caregivers are without health insurance, actually. And typically these caregivers help their loved ones to cope with stressful situations or emotional and behavioral challenges, like I had mentioned earlier. I found all this information in the RAND, R-A-N-D, Military Caregivers Study, which I will note in the link description as well. Something that that study found was that military caregivers need respite programs. So programs where these caregivers can go to to be refreshed, or programs where the individual that they love and they care for can go for a while so that they can be without any responsibilities or obligations for a little while. But the study showed that there are not a whole lot of options out there, which is unfortunate. And the study also showed that there are programs out there for people who are military caregivers to kind of inform them and to help them with challenges, but the struggle is that these programs aren't specific enough for their issues, especially with these like changes that are happening post 9/11 and all of the difficulties that come with that. However, I did find some really cool resources that I'd like to share for caregivers. There is a website called Hidden Heroes, or an organization. It's a service that's offered by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, and it's a national thing. So there are things in Ohio that they offer, and this offers free respite care of up to 35 hours for service members and veterans. And it can be anywhere between like helping with housework or cooking. And there's like a bunch of other different connections that are available on that website. And I'll include that in the video description. There's a VA caregiver support line, and you can call that to learn more about the support that's available to you. And you can call that to help connect you to a caregiver support team or coordinator at the nearest VA hospital near you. One of the programs that the VA offers is called the Program of Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, or PCAFC. And this is a program that the VA made. Oh yeah, so there's a program where primary caregivers can receive benefits, and up to 2 secondary caregivers who step in to help that primary caregiver can receive benefits. And there are eligibility requirements for this program, but the VA has made some specific changes to allow the caregivers to have more access to services, so more people are eligible for these programs. So even if you knew about this and you weren't eligible before, try again. Maybe you are now. So there are so many resources out there for everybody that's helping out with service members. Something, so as just to end on a note that's positive and hopeful, I think it's well known that individuals, that service members and veterans make a significant and important sacrifice for our country, but I think it's also really important to consider that their families serve and sacrifice alongside with them. I want to thank everybody who is a military spouse, a military family member, or a caregiver for their support of the men and women who protect and serve our country. I think that's really incredible. And I want to reiterate that there are so many supports out there to help. And that also can certainly include occupational therapy. Do you have any closing thoughts or last minute additions, Megan?
I thought you worded that beautifully. I was going to say, military life impacts the whole family, the service member and the veteran, and then their family or caregivers or friends as well. So I'm really glad that you covered like spouses, children, and caregivers, and you gave a lot of resources, which will be really helpful. I appreciate that.
Oh, sure. I'm happy to. And again, before we sign off for the day, I do want to mention that all of these resources are going to be organized on the video link description that will be posted. So you guys will be able to look through and see, like under spouses, families, or caregivers, where the resources are and the things that I noted. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.